Two magnets and a single copper wire can generate real electricity, not a theory drawn on a chalkboard. Actual measurable voltage. Michael Faraday proved this inside his London laboratory almost 200 years ago. Every power plant on Earth spins magnets past copper coils right now. Every turbine, every generator, every windmill runs on this exact principle. But no school will ever teach you how to build one with your own hands, not because the science is too difficult for a classroom, because a homemade generator cannot be metered or built. And what cannot be built cannot generate profit for the power grid. They did not erase this knowledge because it failed. They buried it because it works without their permission or their meter. This is the story of the device they removed from every school textbook. Welcome to Forbidden Home Science. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what the energy industry buried. In 1831, a small London laboratory changed the world forever. Michael Faraday sat at a wooden workbench surrounded by spools of copper wire. He carefully wrapped thin wire into a tight coil around a solid iron ring. Then he pushed a simple bar magnet through the center of that coil. The needle on his voltage meter twitched, just a tiny flicker across the gauge. But that flicker was the first artificial electric current ever recorded in history. Faraday had discovered electromagnetic induction at that humble workbench. A moving magnetic field creates voltage inside any copper conductor. He published his findings openly for every scientist and engineer on Earth. No patent filed, no corporation formed, no paywall on his research papers, just pure knowledge given freely to all of humanity from his laboratory. Within 2 decades, engineers built massive generators based on his coil design. By 1882, Thomas Edison opened the Pearl Street Power Station. Giant turbines spinning copper past rows of magnets lit up entire city blocks. The same principle Faraday demonstrated on a simple wooden bench, scaled up 1,000 times and locked behind an electric meter on every wall. But here's what no classroom in the world will ever teach you. Faraday's original device was small enough to fit in the palm of one hand. It required no coal, no fuel, and no external power source whatsoever. Just physical motion, 2 magnets, and a coil of copper wire on a table. During the 1940s, soldiers built generators from salvaged scrap metal. They wound copper wire around magnets pulled from broken radio transmitters. Hand-cranked dynamos powered communication devices deep behind enemy lines. Field engineers assembled small generators in muddy trenches using basic workshop tools. These improvised electromagnetic devices kept entire battalions connected during total blackouts. After the war ended, something deeply strange happened to this knowledge. It did not spread into civilian workshops and households. It contracted. Energy corporations consolidated all power generation into massive centralized grid systems. Utility companies spent millions lobbying for regulations against private electricity generation. Homemade generators were suddenly classified as dangerous and unregulated equipment. The same device that saved thousands of soldiers became restricted in peacetime, and the school textbooks shifted too. They taught the equation, but erased the blueprint. Every physics student memorizes Faraday's law written on a dusty chalkboard. Almost none of them ever learn how to wind a coil and light a single bulb. The formula stays abstract on paper. The generator stays forever unbuilt. This video barely scratches the surface of what the energy industry buried. I spent months compiling every suppressed blueprint and forgotten circuit diagram. Every technique the power companies wanted erased from public knowledge forever, all of it is inside the complete Forbidden Home Science Survival Vault. Step-by-step generator blueprints with exact copper wire gauges and magnet specifications. Off-grid power systems that cost less than one single monthly electric bill. Emergency charging circuits built entirely from hardware store components. Magnetic and solar hybrid setups that field engineers tested and personally verified. Hand-crank dynamo designs that powered military radio equipment in total darkness. Battery bank wiring diagrams that store energy for weeks inside a remote cabin. And the one suppressed coil winding method that changes absolutely everything. Over 12 complete guides packed into one single vault with 0 filler. The link is in the description. Download it before this video gets flagged. But stay right here with me. The science behind this will change how you see electricity. The physics of electromagnetic induction is almost embarrassingly simple. When a spinning magnet passes a copper coil, electrons begin flowing through the wire. This movement of electrons through the conductor is what we call electric current. The faster you spin the magnet past the coil, the more voltage it generates. A neodymium magnet the size of a small coin produces a shockingly powerful magnetic field. Researchers at MIT tested simple hand wound generators under controlled laboratory conditions. A coil of 14-gauge copper wire with 4 neodymium magnets produced real measurable output. Enough voltage to illuminate a bright LED with just a few quick hand cranks. Scale that setup up with more copper windings and stronger magnets on a spinning rotor. Now you have enough power to charge a phone battery inside a remote wilderness cabin. The University of Cambridge published detailed efficiency data on small magnetic generators. These devices convert raw mechanical motion into usable electricity at over 80% efficiency. A standard gasoline generator only manages to convert fuel at roughly 30%. That means a simple that. Magnetic generator is nearly 3 times more efficient than gasoline, and it burns absolutely zero fuel. No exhaust fumes, no toxic emissions, no refills ever. The United States Department of Energy confirmed these numbers in a published report. Small-scale electromagnetic generators are fully viable for off-grid power generation. A $12 spool of copper wire and 4 neodymium magnets from a salvage shop. That is literally all you need to build a functioning micro-generator on a workbench. Total material cost sits under $20 at any standard hardware store. Compare that to a portable gasoline generator that costs $300 minimum, plus ongoing fuel costs, engine maintenance, and replacement parts every single camping season. The magnetic generator has no engine, no moving fluids, no components that wear out, just copper, magnets, and rotation. They can last for decades sitting in a workshop. So why does almost nobody alive today know how to build one? If you have made it this far, you already understand more about electricity than most graduates. Subscribe and share this with anyone living off-grid who deserves to know the truth. Everything the power industry buried is inside the complete vault. Link in the description. Now, stay with me. The conspiracy behind this suppression is the heaviest vault I have ever opened. The global electricity market generates over $2 trillion in revenue every single year. That massive revenue stream flows through power lines owned by a handful of utility corporations. Every single kilowatt you consume passes through a meter bolted to your wall. A homemade magnetic generator completely bypasses that meter and everything it represents. No monthly bill, no connection fee, no infrastructure surcharge on your bank statement. You cannot patent the fundamental principle of electromagnetic induction. You cannot trademark a copper coil wrapped around a spinning magnet. You cannot build a subscription model around a device that never requires fuel. And what cannot generate a recurring subscription cannot generate corporate revenue. In 1920, hand-built generators were common in rural American farm workshops. Farmers wound copper wire themselves to power barn lights and radio receivers. By 1950, utility company lobbyists had reached every single state legislature. New electrical codes suddenly required licensed grid connections for every household in the country. Building your own power source became a code violation in most American counties. The generator equipment itself did not change, only the laws changed around it. The school curriculum shifted at exactly the same time as the legislation. Before the war, shop class taught students to build simple electric motors with their hands. After the lobbying campaigns, physics class only taught abstract equations on the chalkboard. Students memorized voltage formulas and drew circuit diagrams on paper, but never once touched an actual coil of copper wire or a magnet in a real laboratory. The hands were permanently removed from the education, only dry theory remained. Today, the average American household pays over $1,500 per year on their electric bill. A family of 4 spends roughly $130 every single month on power over a standard 30-year mortgage that totals more than $45,000. $45,000 spent on energy that 2 magnets and copper wire could generate. The outdoor recreation industry copied the exact same suppression playbook. Portable power banks, folding solar chargers, and fuel cell packs fill every camping store shelf. The camping power accessory market alone exceeds $4 billion in annual global sales. A hand crank generator that costs $3 in raw materials sells for $60 at a retailer. That enormous markup only exists because the knowledge to build one was erased from every school. Every dollar spent on a commercial portable charger is proof that the suppression campaign worked. Here is exactly how to build a basic electromagnetic generator yourself. Start with a spool of 14-gauge bare copper wire from any local hardware store. Wind the copper carefully into a tight coil of roughly 100 turns around a cardboard tube. Secure all the coil windings firmly with electrical tape so nothing comes loose or unravels. Get 4 neodymium disc magnets, each about the size of a quarter coin. Mount those magnets evenly onto a small wooden rotor or a spinning wheel axle. Alternate the magnetic poles as you mount them. north, south around the rotor. Position the copper coil very close to the path of the spinning magnets without letting them touch. Attach 2 wire leads from the coil ends directly to a small LED light. Now spin the rotor by hand or connect it to a simple crank handle. The LED will light up. You just generated electricity from pure physical motion. The glowing light runs on the same principle as every power plant on this planet. To increase the voltage output, simply add more copper windings to your coil. More turns of wire means more electrons get pushed through the conductor with each rotation. To boost the current, use thicker gauge copper wire when you wind the coil. Now, swap out the LED and connect the leads to a small rechargeable battery pack instead. You now have a portable charging station that works in complete wilderness darkness. Mount the spinning rotor near a flowing stream and let the water turn it continuously. Congratulations. That is a micro hydroelectric generator built from $20 worth of supplies. Or mount the rotor on a tall pole and attach a small propeller blade to catch the wind. You just built a functional wind turbine for less than the cost of a single restaurant meal. A camper in rural Montana built this exact electromagnetic setup outside his off-grid cabin. He powers LED string lights, charges his devices, and runs a weather radio every single night. His total investment was $18 in one single afternoon of work in his workshop. Compare that to the $400 solar panel kit most outdoor retailers push on customers. Same practical result, 5% of the cost. Zero dependence on sunshine or expensive batteries. Now let me be completely honest about the real-world limitations of this technology. A small hand-built micro-generator will not power your entire household or run heavy appliances. Industrial power plants use precisely machine turbine components and enormous rotational force. But for off-grid camping, emergency backup power, and charging small electronic devices, this simple magnetic coil setup outperforms most commercial camping products at a tiny fraction of the cost. The point is not about replacing the entire electrical grid overnight with homemade equipment. The point is that the fundamental knowledge to generate your own power was deliberately removed. Michael Faraday gave this discovery to the entire world for free from his laboratory bench. No patent, no paywall, no corporate license was ever required to use his principles. He believed the power of electricity belonged to every single human being on this planet. Almost 200 years later, we still pay monthly bills for the privilege of using his invention. The copper wire has not changed since Faraday wound his first coil. The magnets have not changed since that needle first flickered on his workshop gauge. Only the laws in the school textbooks were rewritten around them. Every physics classroom still has the electromagnetic equation written on the chalkboard, but the practical blueprint to actually build the generator has been erased from every curriculum. The power plant turbine uses the exact same copper coils you can wind in your own workshop. The only real difference is who gets to control the switch. They taught you just enough theory to pass a standardized test. They hid the practical knowledge so you would keep paying the monthly electric bill forever. But copper wire is still available at every single hardware store in the country. Neodymium magnets are still sitting on shelves in every salvage and hobby shop. And the principle of electromagnetic induction cannot be repealed by any corporation or legislature. This knowledge did not die. It waited patiently inside forgotten workshop manuals. It survived in dusty military field guides and crumbling laboratory notebooks. It waited for someone brave enough to open the vault. If this video made a difference for you, subscribe and share it now. Every single share preserves what the energy industry spent billions trying to erase. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside will change how you think about survival forever.